And for more on this, I can welcome Renaud Foucart, Senior Lecturer in Economics at Lancaster University. Good morning, Renaud, and thank you for joining us. The supporters of the Yadan Law say it will combat new forms of anti-Semitism, while its opponents say it will only serve to muzzle criticism of Israel. Where does the truth lie, in your opinion?
The way the text has been presented in the media was highly focused on the question of Israel and highly focused on the question of what does it mean to call for the destruction of a state. So among the fears you might have is that if you say you're a pacifist and you would like to have a binational state in Israel-Palestine where everyone lives together in peace, should you be sent to jail for 5 years? But then beyond that, if you look at the text of the law, it's not a text about Israel. It's a text much more generic than that. And so, for instance, you are not allowed to call for the destruction of a state, any state in the world, recognized by France. So this applies in mirror to the recognition of the state of Palestine. So what about Jewish people or pro-Israeli people in France who consider that this state should not exist? When it exists, should they be jailed for banning it? Or I am myself a Belgian citizen. The Prime Minister of Belgium says openly he dreams that Belgium ceases to exist and that he dies a Dutch citizen. Should this person jail for 5 years when he comes to France? So I think this is something that tackles a real problem. No? Anti-Semitism in France is a real issue. There have been terrorist attacks specifically targeting the Jews. In 2012, killings in a high school in Toulouse, a Jewish high school, the hyperkosher supermarket in 2015. There is a very legitimate fear of Jewish people in France about anti-Semitism and about the fact that the war and the attacks by Israel are used as an indirect way to use anti-Semitic tropes. But that law specifically is something that I think goes way, way, way beyond that.
Now, you say rightly there that France actually has had problems with anti-Semitism going back well over a decade and, well, perhaps back centuries perhaps, but more recently in the last decade. It has the largest Jewish population in Europe, but it has also been quite liberal compared to some other European countries in its approach to pro-Palestinian advocacy. Has France been trying to strike a balance between protecting its Jewish citizens and respecting freedom of speech?
It is a fine thread indeed, and it is linked to the fact that in France there are a lot of Jewish people, a lot of people who also feel strongly about the Israel-Palestine conflict, and you don't want to be perceived as being unbalanced as a government. And also, I think you really think about the consequences of the law. So I live in the United Kingdom. We have had very difficult to manage events of freedom of speech. Recently, people are banned. If today I went on television and said, I support Palestine Action, which is a pro-Palestinian group that is illegal in the UK, I could be jailed. But also, on the other side, a lady has been jailed because she wrote on the internet that she was okay with asylum seekers' hotel being burned. So those kind of things, the moment you set up the law, the machine, you start to use a lot of resources of the state to actually implement that, to show that it actually matters. So the moment such a law would be enacted, you need to follow up. And the French government, I think, is very well aware that this is something that would be extremely consuming of resources. And I'm afraid we move those resources away against the real problem of sending the message to the Jewish people of France that you want to protect them and that you care about them. And this is not that much about protecting Jewish people than about making a statement in general.
Now, moving on to the utility of the law. Anti-Semitism is already illegal in France, as are, many of the many things regarding apology for terrorism and so on, and these laws are enforced. Is the new law really necessary, or do the laws existing on the statute books already cover these offences?
The way is by adding the idea that there could be an implicit apology of terrorists as opposed to explicit. And so this is something that becomes almost a semantic question. So yes, I think there is a risk that people conflate criticism of Israel with those old anti-Semitic tropes that, as you mentioned, have been in France for very, very long, a poison in society. So this is something that is a legitimate concern of French citizens who care about the security of Jewish people. The question is, does this law make the job? And the problem when you move to things like I condemn implicit statement is that it's become extremely vague and can be leveraged in one direction or the other. So again, if you are a pro-Israel French citizen right now, you should be concerned that if the law pass, talking about settlers in the West Bank, for instance, they are sanctioned by the European Union at the moment because of the terrorist act they pass on in the West Bank. Should people who implicitly mark their support for settlers in the West Bank be jailed? Those are questions that, again, are questions of words, and the difference between the intention of the lawmakers and what the words actually mean the moment they are used by people who are not the lawmakers in the first place.
Now, 700,000 people have signed a petition opposed to the law, which suggests that it is quite a decisive proposition.
It is highly divisive and it is highly political, which makes it, I think, even more dangerous. This comes at a moment where, unfortunately, France is already talking only about the next presidential election, and this proposition of law plays different roles. So obviously there is the risk of foreign intervention. So is this an attempt by the Israeli government to protect themselves at a time where there have been so much debates about the violence of its army? That's one thing. But within French politics, there is at the moment 3 blocs who care highly about this proposition. Beyond the people who signed the petition against it, there are a lot of people on the left and far left who think that all the others are siding with Israel and that they would see this moment as a way to gather together. At the center, they want to show we are the reasonable guy, and we want to delegitimate everyone on the left and far left to criticize too much Israel. And so because we want to be big enough to be the one who goes to the second round of the presidential election by making the other ones irrelevant. And then the third one that very few people talk about is that this law can only pass if it gets the support of the far right, so of Marine Le Pen's Rassemblement National. So you need a party who was co-founded by a Waffen-SS to fight anti-Semitism. This might be something that I think shows that your law is not presented at the ideal moment and in the ideal way.
Thank you very much for that, Renaud Foucart, Senior Lecturer in Economics at Lancaster University.